Hi, I'm Katie Campbell, and this is my GPY 356 mapping project. So for my introduction, obviously the point of this project was to evaluate and compare location quotients, and the two things I looked at were the amount of required vaccinations for each of the countries in the European Union, and then a couple outside of it, and compared that to the infant mortality rates of those countries. The infant mortality rates were the number of children 12 months and younger per 1,000 births. So it's not like these many people died that year, but it was this many children died per 1,000 births. And a location quotient is a way of quantifying how concentrated a particular phenomenon is in a region. So the particular thing in a country as compared to the nation. So like as compared to the continent as a whole. So my question was, is there a correlation between the number of vaccinations required and the infant mortality rates in the European Union? And my hypothesis was, I believe that there is a correlation between these two variables, showing that infant mortality rate will be linear and is dependent upon how many vaccinations are required at birth. It could, however, though, be either a negative correlation or a positive correlation. It could be a negative correlation saying that the more amount of vaccines given, the lower the mortality rate will be because these vaccines are keeping these children from getting sick. Or it could be a positive one saying the more vaccines given leads to a higher mortality rate because in today's world we have all these studies showing that these vaccinations are making the children sick and are killing the children, are giving them illnesses that eventually hurt them later on in life. So, yeah. So this was my map for the required vaccinations. As you can see, it kind of varied throughout the whole continent. Some of the higher countries that had for higher vaccinations were Latvia, Austria, and Germany, and they range between 13 to 15 vaccinations. And then lower ones were Hungary and Denmark, and they both only required 6. Throughout all of the European Union, the average of vaccinations required is about 9.5. So looking at this data, like I said earlier, the lowest were Hungary, Denmark, and Slovakia, all with 6 or 7 each, and these countries are found in East and Northern Europe. Then the highest were Latvia, Austria, and Germany, which are 15, 14, and 13. And you'll find these countries in the West and Northeastern Europe. Then this is the map looking at the infant mortality rate per 1,000 births. And so you can see this one isn't varied so much throughout the continent. There are little ones, like if you look more towards the southeastern part, it varied more, but more towards the northern part, you see lower location quotients for the infant mortality rates. And then as you travel down and west, it gets a little bit higher. And then it's the highest down in the southeastern part. So that is interesting. Looking at this, you see that Slovenia, Finland, and Sweden are the lowest in the infant mortality rates, and you find those both in Northern and Southern Europe. Northern ones are Finland and Sweden, and they're up here, and then Slovenia is down here. And then the highest ones are Romania, Bulgaria, and Slovakia, and those are all found in Southern Europe. And looking at these numbers, it's 0.48, 0.59, 0.59, and then 8.7, 7.6, and 5.8. Don't forget, this isn't just the number of kids or number of infants who died that year, but this is the number of infants per 1,000 births who died that year. So say there was 1,000 births that year, then this right here would be 70, like Bulgaria, for example, would be 70 infants died that year, and then the rest of them didn't. So then just looking at the two maps side by side, for vaccinations, the average was a 9.5, like I said, and you can see the above average countries are all scattered around, and then along with the below average, there isn't just one set thing because if you look at the map comparing like who gets more and who gets less, it was all scattered around as well. It didn't really matter based on their location on the map. But then when you go over to the infant mortality, like earlier, it's more dedicated towards its region. And a lot of the above average ones are more over this side, towards the eastern side of Europe. And then if you look up towards like the western and the northern parts of Europe, that's where you find the below average infant mortality rates. So when you put it on a scatter plot graph, you do see that there tends to be a slight negative correlation between the infant mortality location quotient and the vaccination location quotient. This means that the more vaccinations required at birth tend to have led to a lower infant mortality rate. Reasons for this could be the vaccinations stop the infant from contracting the diseases that their bodies are not yet strong enough to fight. Therefore, this allows them to hopefully live a long and full life. Other variables that could impact this is higher quality of living in certain areas or certain countries. Obviously, they have more money, and then they just are in cleaner environments and stuff like that, keeping them from contracting these diseases. And another variable could be the access to more medical resources than also in these higher quality living areas, because they have the money to get to these doctors if their children get sick, or they have the cures more readily available if they do. And then my works cited, this was where I found the numbers of vaccines required for each country.